Thanks, Tim. As Tim already said, I'm not in stereotypical male youth pastor garb. If you saw me earlier today, I had my plaid shirt on. I still got the beard, though. I got the suit for a friend's wedding back in spring of 2014, and his brother got married a couple months later. Worn it for Confirmation Sunday at our church. The last time I wore it before today was for two of our youth leaders who got married on New Year's Eve, and that was a great time. But as I'm sure you're all aware, there's times where we don more reverent clothing for more serious matters. And the story that I'm about to share, I think, is something that we, even in the midst as I was going through it, I remember having that cliche thought of this doesn't happen it always happens to somebody else. And then I found myself in the middle of it. And even earlier that week, our conference, one of our colleagues had experienced a loss. And so on Wednesday night after middle school youth group, I was packing up to gear up to go to Grand Rapids to meet with some of the other youth pastors in Michigan to spend some time in prayer for our colleague to kind of figure out what we could do. And went to bed and felt like I had barely put my head on the pillow when I got one of those phone calls that we all wish that we wouldn't get. And even at the time, the dad called me, and he sounded so calm on the phone, but he said, "We need you at the hospital." And so I do what we do. I got dressed, I went, I was there, from phone call to arriving at the hospital was about 15 minutes. And from the tone of his voice on the phone, I just wasn't prepared for walking into the emergency room and meeting the dad, Matt, there, and him telling me that they lost their daughter. And obviously, I'm still processing this. Our church is still processing this. Our youth are still processing this. And it's something hard, and I immediately remember thinking, man, I'm not prepared for this, God. Why am I here? And I think those thoughts in those moments are okay and they're natural. But at the same time, it's where God calls us to be in those raw and vulnerable moments with families. But through that was a little over a month and a half ago. It was December 8th. And I can tell you I've learned a lot about myself, about our church, and about God through this experience. What it means to walk closer with God when you feel like you don't have the words to say. But also through this, the way to see that God works through the worst of our circumstances. In the way that our church has stepped up to support this family. In the way that it's opened up the doors for other conversations with students who are wrestling with tough issues. And I think the reality was the student, Isabella, she had been wrestling with depression for a while. And she had made an attempt in September. But at the same time, issues of suicide, depression, mental health, they're not something that we see on the outside like a suit, like a sprained ankle or a broken arm. And so the news of her passing caught a lot of our students off guard, and it was, and still is, really hard for them. But like I said, the way to see God moving through having some more difficult conversations. And I stand up here not as somebody who has answers, but as a humble servant of God who needs prayer and support, and I know that there's others of you in the room who need that too. So find those opportunities that you can be a support to one another. Look for the ways that God is at work, and remind your kids of that too. I felt it very important to share this with you because I think sometimes, as I was just having a conversation with a student earlier this week, sometimes the hardest part is just getting the ball rolling of having these difficult conversations. But once you open up the door, it allows God to really be at work.